The Cleveland Browns are approaching a pivotal crossroads that could reshape the future of the franchise. With the season winding down and a high draft pick virtually locked in, critical decisions loom that go far beyond the final scoreboard. A young player is making his case on the field, but the front office faces pressure to make a move that could define the next era. The question isn't just about performance, it's about vision, timing, and bold strategy. What happens next might just surprise everyone. But first, tell me, do you want Shedeur to stay at Browns? I want to know your opinion. And don't forget to click the like button. The Cleveland Browns draft future could take a dramatic turn depending on how these final games of the season shake out, and all eyes are now on rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders. This isn't just about finishing the year strong. It's about deciding the direction of the franchise for the next half-decade, possibly longer. The stakes have never been higher, and the Titans' game looms large. With Cleveland almost certain to land a top 10 pick, and currently sitting with over a 70% chance to pick inside the top 5, what they do with that selection is anything but settled. That's because this isn't just a top 5 pick in a vacuum. The Browns are looking at a quarterback situation that remains uncertain, especially with Deshaun Watson still under contract and commanding an astronomical cap hit of over $80 million next season. But the wild card in all of this is Shedeur Sanders. The rookie signal caller is guaranteed to start against the Titans, and while head coach Kevin Stefanski hasn't confirmed if Sanders will start the rest of the season, the general sense is that the opportunity is there. The Browns have quietly made it clear, if Shedeur performs and keeps improving, he may play himself into the starting role for 2025. It's a fascinating dilemma. Do you commit to a young quarterback who is already in your building, showing signs of growth? Or do you spend a top 5 pick on one of the few draft-eligible passers worth the investment? And make no mistake, it is an investment. Top 5 quarterbacks come with $40 million price tags and become the centerpieces of your franchise overnight. That's the kind of commitment you don't make unless you are absolutely certain. And that's why so much hinges on Shedeur's next few games. His performance against the Raiders and Niners has already turned heads. There were mistakes, naturally, but there were also flashes of real promise. If he can build on those performances and show consistency, not just flashes, then the Browns may feel comfortable passing on a quarterback altogether in this draft. But if they don't? If Sanders falters, then Cleveland has to be ready to make a move. That's where 2 names come into focus, Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore. These are the only 2 quarterbacks in the upcoming class that truly look like top-tier talents. Mendoza, with his 6 feet 5 inches frame and 32 touchdown season, is being projected as the potential number 1 pick by many analysts. Cleveland has lacked a big-bodied franchise quarterback like that for years. Meanwhile, Moore brings something different, a Cleveland native with ties to the city, an Oregon product standing at 6 feet 3 inches and 206 pounds, and currently ranked as the number 1 quarterback on Mel Kiper's board. Either of them could realistically be Cleveland's pick, but only if Sanders doesn't make his case. And this is where it gets tricky. Because even if the Browns like one of these prospects, they might not have a chance at them unless they move up. Remember, there are other quarterback-needy teams ahead of them in the draft order: the Titans, the Giants, the Saints, even the Raiders. Cleveland might find themselves just outside the window to land either Mendoza or Moore. But with 2 first-round picks and 10 total selections in the draft, they have the capital to move up if they really want to. That means Cleveland's front office has to not only evaluate these prospects with precision but also be ready to make a bold trade if they feel one is the guy. Still, there's another layer that needs to be addressed: the cost of drafting a quarterback in 2025 while still being financially tied to Deshaun Watson. That $80 million cap hit looms over everything. Even if Cleveland were to draft someone like Mendoza, he likely wouldn't start immediately. The Watson contract essentially locks him into the roster through at least 2026, unless the Browns pull off something drastic. So, would it make sense to draft a quarterback now when the earliest you could realistically start him might be 2 years down the road? It's a legitimate concern, and one that may push Cleveland to wait until the 2027 draft class, which, by all early accounts, looks absolutely stacked. Think about it. In 2027, you'll have names like Arch Manning, Dylan Raiola, and DJ Lagway eligible. And for Buckeye fans, the names Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith are already drawing top 5 buzz. If the Browns can field a competent offense behind Shedeur Sanders or even ride out the rest of Watson's contract, they might find themselves in a far better position to go all in on a franchise quarterback in that loaded 2027 class. The move then becomes strategic: trade down from a top 5 pick this year, accumulate assets, and bolster the offensive line, wide receiver room, or secondary. Build a stronger overall roster now, then strike for your quarterback in 2 years when Watson's contract is finally off the books. And that brings us back to the central question: is Shedeur Sanders playing for the Browns' future? If he delivers, if he proves he can handle the pressure and grow into the role, the Browns can delay their quarterback search and invest heavily elsewhere. But if he falters, if those flashes don't become something more consistent, Cleveland may have no choice but to roll the dice in 2025 and bet on Mendoza or Moore. So, Browns fans, this is where you come in. With all of this on the line, what would you do if you were sitting in Andrew Berry's chair this offseason? Let us know in the comments. Let's now consider the ripple effects if Cleveland does indeed decide to pass on a quarterback this year. The decision wouldn't just reflect belief in Shedeur Sanders, it would set the tone for how the Browns allocate critical draft capital. With 2 first-round picks and 10 total selections, the opportunity is there to plug multiple roster holes that have been exposed this season, especially on offense. The offensive line, once a hallmark of the team's identity, has been inconsistent at best and injury-prone at worst. If Shedeur is to succeed, Cleveland must protect him. Investing one of those first-rounders, perhaps even trading down slightly from the top 5 to accumulate more picks, and using that capital to secure a top-tier offensive tackle would be a franchise-smart move. It's a class with depth at that position, and Cleveland could find a long-term bookend to pair with Jedrick Wills or potentially replace him down the line. Then there's the wide receiver room. Jerry Jeudy has had flashes, but the unit lacks a true game-changer. With Amari Cooper aging and no true WR1 on the roster, taking a receiver early, especially if they trade down, becomes a real option. Names like Malik Neighbors or Keon Coleman could be on the board in the 10 to 15 range, depending on how things shake out. Imagine pairing Shedeur with a dynamic, young receiver and giving this offense a jolt of speed and playmaking that it's been missing. And let's not ignore the secondary. With Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome dealing with injuries throughout the year, the cornerback group could use another young talent. That second first-round pick, if not used to move up, could be the perfect spot to add another lockdown defender, especially in a division where you face receivers like Jamar Chase, George Pickens, and Zay Flowers twice a year. But what if Cleveland does decide to take a quarterback, despite all the risks? Despite Watson's cap hit and Shedeur's potential? That tells you one thing, the front office is convinced. They've seen enough to know that Mendoza or Moore is too good to pass up, and they're willing to eat Watson's contract, stash their new rookie behind him, and begin grooming him for a future takeover. That's why Fernando Mendoza becomes the most compelling name in this entire conversation. At 6 feet 5 inches, with elite-level arm strength and production, he fits the mold of a prototypical franchise QB. If Cleveland scouts fall in love with his tape and interviews, it's not hard to imagine them making the move. Same goes for Dante Moore. The hometown narrative is strong, and there's a belief that with the right system and time, Moore could develop into a star. He wouldn't be expected to start right away, and in Cleveland, that might be the perfect scenario. But again, it all circles back to Shedeur Sanders. If he gives the Browns even a reason to believe he can hold the job through 2025, then spending a top 5 pick on a QB this year feels like a luxury the team can't afford. Not with the offensive line, receivers, and even coaching staff needing serious evaluation and possible overhaul. Remember, there are still questions surrounding Kevin Stefanski's long-term fit. If the Browns underperform in these final games, especially offensively, it's not hard to imagine a coaching change entering the picture. And that's another element we have to keep in mind. A new coaching staff might come in with their own QB preferences, their own system, and that could change everything. If Stefanski finishes strong and earns another year, that continuity might benefit Shedeur. But if ownership decides to clean house, a new head coach or offensive coordinator could want to draft his guy, making the case for Mendoza or Moore even stronger. There's also one more angle fans should be thinking about, the trade market. If Cleveland ends up with a top 5 pick and passes on a quarterback, that spot becomes one of the most valuable assets in the entire draft. QB-hungry teams like Atlanta, New England, or even Denver could offer a haul to move up. If the Browns can trade down, stay in the first round, and pick up extra day 2 picks or even a 2026 first, it could set them up beautifully to fill out the roster and prepare for a future quarterback-heavy class. So here's the chessboard, stay put and take a quarterback, believing he's the answer in spite of Watson's contract. Trade down, go all in on offensive talent, and roll with Shedeur, betting on his growth and setting yourself up for 2027. Or, go bold, trade up for Mendoza or Moore, reshaping the quarterback room today. Each path has risk. Each could either extend Cleveland's rebuild or accelerate their rise. But if there's one thing clear in this conversation, Shedeur Sanders now holds the keys. His play in the final few games of the year could not only determine Cleveland's 2025 starter, but influence the team's entire draft philosophy and roster construction. That's why every snap, every drive, every touchdown or interception matters so much right now. And Browns fans, this is where we wrap it up, but we want to hear from you. Should the Browns go all in on Shedeur Sanders and build around him? Or is it time to draft the next face of the franchise regardless of the cost? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell so you never miss a Browns update. Click the video on your screen now for more draft coverage and behind-the-scenes breakdowns. The news you care about, before anyone else, you'll find it right here. Go Browns!